So I wanted to make this video a little bit impromptu, mostly for those of you who are new members and who have watched some of my recent videos about men's politics and things along those lines. More specifically, I'm really proud of the 4 laws that changed gender equality that I put out a couple of days ago. I hope that you've seen that. If you haven't, please go watch it. Seriously, I put over 40 hours into making that mini documentary style video. There was well over, I think, 200 elements into that video. It took me about 40 hours to do it. So, anyway, I got a comment in response to that, or maybe one of the shorts that I had posted along with it. And somebody had said, would you please do something about Title 4D? And if you're here and you like my content, I'm guessing that most of you are familiar, at least a little bit, with Title 4D. And my response to that comment was, I would like to do that. I just wanted to make sure that it's in line with my content and it's valuable to viewers, because diving into these things, researching them, and coming up with my script and all of the additional material, the editing, all of that stuff does take some time. But I did give it some thought over the last 12 or 18 hours, and I had already been familiar with Title 4D, but not entirely. So I started digging into it a little bit. And then I started digging into, okay, well, what else led to Title 4D? What did it spawn off as far as other laws and things like that? And I came up with a list of about 10 or 12. We're going to look at them here. You can see several of them on the screen here right now. What I want to do going forward, think of this, if you're familiar with my material, with my deep dives, what I would do is take a large topic, a video that might be an hour long, divide it into 4 to 5, maybe 6 different sections, shorten them up into, and then release them in about 5 to 8 or maybe 11-minute sections. So we got the deep dive parts and then the full deep dives that I've posted and are anywhere between maybe 20 minutes and a little bit over an hour. I think what I want to do with each of these is go with them in chronological order and release them as individual parts, and then at the end put them all into one video for somebody who's driving their car, going for a walk, and you feel like listening to maybe an hour and a half. It may be a 2 hour series by the time I'm done with it. But as opposed to my normal deep dives, in which I would release them one day, the next day, the next day, consecutive, this one will be a couple or maybe even several days in between them. But let's take a look. For those of you, again, I know that you're familiar with some of these. I was surprised with some of what I came up with about men's issues and how the law holds them accountable for being fathers and putting them in jail. Yes, putting them in jail, taking away and stripping them of their licenses, everything else, their incomes, for being parents. I will get back into doing some relationship psychology, men's masculinity videos in between, kind of intermittent between them as well. But here's what's coming on this channel, because I really did not realize some of these things actually existed. So we'll start with Title 4D from 1975, which created the modern child support system, setting up child support agencies, and required states to help locate non custodial parents and tying federal funding to enforcement success. Then we'll move on to the Bradley Amendment. I was not familiar with this one in 1986, which required that once child support becomes overdue, that amount is treated as final judgment, right? So it cannot be reduced, even if the father is unemployed, hospitalized, incarcerated, or otherwise even unaware of the order. Proper fucked, right? And then we have the Family Support Act of 1988. This one expanded automatic wage garnishings across the country so that child support could be deducted directly from paychecks. Actually, I thought this one had started a little bit earlier, but it strengthened, as we can see, the state monitoring systems and made withholding a standard part of child support orders rather than a penalty for missed payments. And then after that, we'll take a look at what is next. The Child Support Recovery Act, this one from 1992, which made failure to pay child support across state lines a federal crime. They took this shit federal. So, this one here, as we can see, allowed federal prosecutors to pursue non payment when states could not, thereby criminalizing interstate non payment behavior rather than treating it as a civil dispute. They're federalizing this stuff by the early 1990s. And then in 1994, the Full Faith and Credit for Child Support Orders Act, requiring states to enforce child support orders issued in any other state. So now they got the other state doing the work for them when they can't chase them down across state borders. We'll move into the Uniform Interstate Family Act, 1992, revised a few years later, and then about a decade after that again, giving one state continuing exclusive jurisdiction, meaning that a parent generally cannot seek a modification of support in a different state. After that, we'll move on to the Personal Responsibility Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act of 1996, tied federal welfare funding to aggressive child support enforcement outcomes, creating national databases at this point, right? Because now we've all got computers, such as the Federal Case Registry and Directory of New Hires, allowing states to track employment, wages, and movement across state lines. They're chasing down, following, tracking fathers as if they are guilty of espionage. Then in 1996, we have the Federal Parent Locator Service, draws from IRS records, Social Security, unemployment insurance, and new hire reporting forms systems. You go get a new job because you need to pay your support. Guess what? Fucking flags go up. Making this made attempting to disappear functionally impossible. Of course it did. Then we have the mandatory income withholding in the mid 90s, shifting child support from something paid voluntarily to something deducted before fathers even receive their wages. After that, the Deadbeat Parents Punishment Act, and this one surprised the hell out of me. This one came from Bill Clinton. Several of these came from Clinton. No longer a fan after I've done this larger dive. But this one, the Deadbeat Parents Punishment Act, escalated non-payment of support to a felony crime if a father is unable to pay his child support, increasing fines and prison exposure for long-term or high amount of non-payment. So I was curious about why nothing why nothing happened really after the 1990s and into the 2000s. And apparently, what I wrote in my notes is that by that time, by the 1998, the system was already complete. The architecture to locate, surveil, control, identify, and withdraw wages from fathers. There's nothing else that can be done to them other than, again, throw them into prison. So there were no new child support enforcement laws because everything was already fully constructed by 1998. And by that point, as we can see, the federal government had nationwide wage withholding, everything else. There were no remaining gaps that needed new legislation. That's why there have been no new laws since 1998, or no major ones. I'll get, pardon me. I'll get into some modifications of some of these laws, I think, during some of these discussions, but nothing major has happened in 27 years. So at the same time, all of these political and cultural framing was already fixed, and the deadbeat dad myth, that narrative, had already been solidified in media. And those of you who have been around for through this system for the past 20, 25 years, maybe 30 or 40 even, like me, you realize that yes, the solidification was done right about that time. It's from the mid to late 90s, everything was done in narratives still hold true today. So you can see a couple of my other notes on here, but I just wanted to kind of chime in here. After reading some of the comments to a couple of my videos and say, yes, I am more than happy to dive into more of this legislative, social, cultural, psychological stuff and its impacts on fathers and families. So please, I hope that you'll come back. Make sure that you like, subscribe this to this channel. Share this with a friend who's interested in knowing the policy behind all of the bullshit that we're experiencing today. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you.